La vida es corta sin parar, mirar y de reír para celebrar. Cada momento hay que gozar, como si mañana no va a llegar.
Hola, hola. Welcome to Entre Tías Amiguis, the podcast where we dive into the wild roller coaster ride of adulting. I'm your host, Adri Rodriguez, a queer Salvadorian native, a first-gen trailblazer, a multipreneur and licensed psychotherapist, here to share wisdom, stories, and real talk with my tías and amiguis and other incredible guests who inspire and uplift our community. I want to remind you that while I am a licensed psychotherapist, this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. The discussions we have here are not substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Now let's dive into today's conversation and explore the journey of adulting together. Grab your cafecito, get comfy, and let's get started. Entre Tías Amiguis is a space to talk about everything adulting, the ways that we cry, the ways that we grow, the ways that we struggle and get out of the hole over and over again. Yeah. Wild roller coaster of adulting. And so I like to start with by introducing myself. Adri Rodriguez, her's ella, and I'm a Latina, I'm a queer immigrant, daughter of immigrants, eldest daughter, and I always start sharing all these things because no matter what I'm doing, whether it's a podcast, therapy, photography, there's always this lens, right, that is informed by all my experiences. So whenever I bring a guest on, I have them introduce themselves with any identities that they find relevant, that are kind of informing that lens of who they are now, in the past, or who they hope to become. And with that said,
Okay, no pressure. Let's see. I'm Lupe, and I go by she, ella. Identities. I feel like I'm embracing different ones. I think one of them being in my Señora era. I would say that's one of them.
Baby Señora.
Baby Señora, yeah. Baby Señora. I'm not like fully there. I feel there, but I'm not fully. What else? A neuroslicing girly is something that is new, that has been in the past maybe year and a half. Is something, an identity that has been sitting with me that I feel like I'm still very much exploring. What else? I don't know. There's so many.
You grew up in SoCal. You live there.
Yeah, I grew up in Southern California. Shout out to Riverside, California.
You really go hard for that.
Yes, I do.
That's life.
I do. I really do go for Riverside. I grew up there, many years, and I've been in Sacramento since 2014. So I feel like I'm a Sacramentian.
I do see where somewhere. So
yeah,
Sacramento.
Yeah. That's me now, yeah. What else? I'm an eldest daughter, so if you know, you know.
We know.
Yeah, I'm in my my recovering Luisa stage of life. I no longer identify as Luisa from Encanto. If you know, you know. What else? Any other ideas you feel like I should highlight?
You are a dog parent?
Oh yeah, I'm a dog parent. I'm also...
You go hard for your dogs.
I do. I go very hard for my dogs. I'm also a therapist.
Yes.
By day. Yeah. Whoops. By day. I feel like therapist is like the very last identity that I like to share with people. I think it's also because in public spaces, I'm like, no me pongo a trabajar. Like, I don't want to work. Don't ask me hard questions. Like, I just want to exist. So I think my core is more like dog mom, bookstagrammer, multi-passionate person, quirky at times. I feel like I'll, yeah. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay, well, I want to start with this whole Señorahood because I know, like, for me, part of this podcast was inspired by the fact that I turned 40 last year. So that's what I'm saying. You're a baby.
I am getting
there, right? Because I even think I'm still kind of like in the teenage señora. Like, I'm still trying to figure it out, rebelling, I guess, all the things. But I think our generation is going through this, like, phase of owning being a señora. Mm-hmm. I feel like I remember thinking that being a señora was like a good thing, or meant that you were old or uncool or had a bunch of children or responsibility. Like, my ideas of señora were so narrow. Like, there was this one way to be señora. And so I think that now, for me, at least, I'm experiencing this, like, what kind of señora do I want to be? Because the way that I'm a señora is not the same way of the señoras that I met when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And so what has been kind of owning that Senora title for you? Like what started it? Why are you entering this stage of Señorahood with intention? Like what helps you to like actually own that title?
Yeah, so I think part of it is like a reclaiming. So I think growing up as Señorahood for me seemed something that was very painful because I think all the women in my life had to give up so much. And I didn't get to see them have friends or have social lives or things outside of their children in their home and like cleaning and cooking and things like that. So I think as I got older, there was parts of this that did feel good to me or that did feel sacred to me, like, you know, cooking. Like I do very much enjoy it. When I was younger, I had a very negative relationship with it because it was forced. It was something you have to do. It's your responsibility as the oldest. Like you need to, you know, kind of fill in when my parents are around, you know, to be this person, to show up in this way. And same with like cleaning and things like that. And now there's like rituals of it that I love, like putting on like the música, los corridos, and you know, and you kind of laugh because you're like, oh, it's like that Sunday morning, you know, limpia time. And so there's parts of that I really enjoyed, but I think that I saw it as a way for my mom to decompress. And maybe that was the only way that she had like that time to really kind of maybe sink into herself and kind of just ignore the world in a way, even though she was never fully happy doing all these things. But I think it was being with yourself. Mm-hmm. And so I think for me, Señorahood is kind of reclaiming being with myself, not really fully having to show up for others if I don't want to. But it's like spending time with myself, getting to know myself, and how do I want to show up? I think when I think about Señorahood, it's like having pockets of community and getting to be the vecina that can share things with people, right? So like some of my dreams is like have a garden and, you know, I can share fruits and vegetables with friends and little flowers and like, and kind of just live what I would say maybe like a softer life. Mm-hmm. Like I just crave more quiet, slowing down, even though it's counterintuitive to I think how I live my whole life and like la chinga, like go. And so yeah, like Señorahood for me is like this soft kind of magical place where it's like, oh, like I can breathe and I can exist, and if I want to do stuff I can, and if I don't have to, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm. It makes me think about kind of the similar journey that I'm in, where I've had to really question with intention what parts of the Señorahood that I've seen, right? Do I want to bring forward with me? What needs attention and what definitely has to stay behind? Because one of the things I know for me, the self-sacrificing Señora, that is like a one thing that is like I know for me. But the Señora that that gets dolled up, right? And think about it like my mom and like my tias and like the older like women getting dolled up and being like so beautiful and everything. And I feel like, you know, we're doing really well now. So there's like all these like gifts, challenges, but there's also like intentionality that I know that I'm trying to put in like claiming this title. What are there obvious things that you're definitely bringing forward with you in this journey of Señorahood, or things that are leaving behind, things that you're like examining and wondering like, how do I make it a mi manera, like on my own?
Yeah, I feel like one of the things that I know in my heart that I'm bringing forward, I think is something that I'm proud of, which is my sense of community and caring for people in my life, but in this way that's very mutual, where it's not just me self-sacrificing. So I think that is something that I would like to continue to cultivate, because I remember growing up, my house was like the catch-all house. So people were always in my house, whether it was friends, whether it was cousins, it was just like the place to be. I think I'm incorporating different elements of that because I'm not someone that wants a bunch of people in my house, but I think there's elements of like of providing comfort and love and stability, and people just knowing like, oh, Lupe is a place that I can go to, like she's a place that I can like spend time with, that I can enjoy, like that isn't like this harmful, intense space, right? And so I think that's parts of, I think that are something that's really important to me, I think in Señorahood, that I'm trying to bring with me. And of course, some of the things that I'm trying to leave behind is, I think, the self-sacrificing, the kind of doing things in solitude, the things that kind of go against community building, where, you know, Señorahood for me growing up was like, you don't have people that show up for you, you don't talk about the things that you're going through, X, Y, and Z. And so I think I want to leave that behind and kind of bring more like comadres, right, to the table to be like, let's talk about things and let's talk about, you know, being in Señorahood or things that are changing in life, things that we want, dreams, hopes. So I think being kind of like bringing, maybe I guess so you can say like chisme, you know, like the sacredness of gathering around and having chisme, but in a way that doesn't feel like toxic or negative, but that feels like very like sisterhood, very like healing together.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think about, you know, growing up in El Salvador, we very commonly have this mid-afternoons, like in otros países, siesta, right?
Sí.
I don't know that I remember seeing the señoras in my neighborhood nap or something on the
Sí.
street. But what they did is that they had their cafecito and pan dulce like in the afternoon. And so, building community, I know, is something that you're really good at. I'm really lucky to be part of your because you are embodying like that, like Señora Casa, where you can count on and everything. And so it makes me. Is there something like really special about hearing the intentionality that you're putting into what kind of señora you want to be? In addition to that, you shared that you're a neurospicy señora, which is also, you know, I think we grew up in our culture seeing our moms or the señoras, the tia, being like this like stoic presences and nothing shakes them, right? And then nothing, that they don't need any accommodations and they don't need any rest and they don't need anything, right? So how are you making space for the very special ways that make you, that is not only about giving and taking care of others and being a welcoming space, but also the señora, the way that you're nurturing your señora for you, and all the beautiful, quirky, difficult, funny, you know, all the parts of you.
Yeah, I feel like I'm entering an era, I think it's a work in progress, but I'm entering an era of not being afraid to let people know my capacity and to remove guilt that like, I don't always have capacity to show up 100%, or to feel safer around gatherings and saying like, hey, my threshold is maybe an hour. Is that okay? Like, can we meet for an hour for dinner or whatever? Because I think also, I think it's a gift and sometimes it's a curse that I think, being neurospicy and I think also being a therapist, we know how to ask questions really well. And so people naturally want to talk more. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't know that I wanted to know this much information. So I think I'm learning to pause, to assess like situations and what do I need from it and how do I, you know, ask people to hold that space and to meet me halfway. And so in removing shame around like I do need accommodations, and that doesn't mean anything negative. It just means that like I have my bandwidth is not this battery that never runs out, you know. So similar, like when we have to charge our phones and things like that, like I need moments to kind of recharge. So I think that's what I'm learning, is to ask for those things, to be able to lean on people, to ask people when I need help, when I'm at capacity. And then also not taking it personally if they also maybe don't have the capacity to show up in that way. So I think that's something that I'm really, really trying to embody in this, like, you know, stage of moving into Señorahood. Like I have, you know, a couple of years still left to fully enter the Señora era, but I think I'm already trying to pave like something sustainable as I'm like continue my trajectory to be like a gran señora.
Una gran señora.
I just want to see it.
There's places to aspire to be for sure. Yeah, you know, it's like this self-sacrificing idea is also very interconnected with Latino Latinx cultural values, right? Marianismo, una señora, una buena señora is a person that is constantly giving. So what you're talking about in this, like, intentionality of building who you're going to be as you get to get a señora, it requires a lot of self-awareness. What has been that process for you to become aware and accepting, like that self-acceptance? Because before we can ask things from other people to accommodate or to meet us or at, it also requires like a great deal of like, but can I ask for that? Do I want to ask for that? And so what has been your journey towards self-awareness and acceptance of these parts of you that make you very special?
So I think, interesting enough, I think this self-awareness really became kind of tied to more when I started to kind of hold space for, you know, my neurodivergence. And because I think I've always been very self-aware growing up, which sometimes was really exhausting because I think I constantly live in my head and then feeling stuck of how do I take what's from here and here and how do I put it out there. And so I think once I started to lean in that, and I also recognize like I'm tired of kind of feeling like I live in my head or I live in my body, and I'm not fully existing out in the real world. I think that's what gave me kind of permission to take my awareness and then serve it in a way that, you know, people could kind of sit with it and understand, like, these are some of the things that, like, I need for, like, these relationships to feel safe or to feel healthy and to, you know, to be, you know, nurtured, and, you know, and I think it always comes from a place of love, like, of, you know, can you love me fully and wholly as I am, and knowing that I do have struggles. And I think it also took going through some really painful friendships, you know, growing up to kind of realize, like, you know, there were certain things that I needed, and I think certain people didn't have capacity for that. And so I think now I'm really intentional with the people that are still in my life, and I want them to stick around. So, like, it got to a point where if I can't be transparent and I can't be genuine, then maybe our paths in each other's life has come to an end. Because I think I've gotten to a point where I don't want to do inauthenticity anymore, and I don't want to be afraid to have conversations. And if we can't grow, if we don't have, you know, if we're not aligned in certain ways, and then it doesn't have to be a bad thing, but that means, like, I don't know that I want to continue to extend space for people in my life.
Mm-hmm. What I find really beautiful about what you said is that you're naming that you have always known what you needed.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you had the words for it or not, whether the world had the words for it or not, there is a way that we have in our hearts, our intuition, our inner self, highest self, whatever we want to call it, right? That we do know what we need. But what a barrier it is sometimes to, like, one, have the courage to name it,
Mm-hmm.
but also to find the words to ask
Yeah.
for these things, and then maybe even the trust that if we ask the right people, the people that can
Yeah.
help us will be able to respond to us. But, you know, so just
Yeah.
like a little reminder of, like, what that God tells you about what you need,
Mm-hmm.
like, it has always been telling you that.
Yeah.
It's just that now finally we're kind of listening to it.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. And I think parts of that is also, like, I think I've always been kind of quirky or playful or funny. And I just want to be that person. Like, I want to embody that person. Like, I'm still working on it, but I want to get to the point and be like, I don't want to do that, but maybe, you know, maybe next time, you know, like, to just not be afraid to say, like, oh, that's not really my thing, or, and it doesn't always have to be funny, but just being able to be like, no, like, just speak my truth, speak fully, and speak in a way that I feel so liberated, where I don't have to, like, question, like, oh, should I say this or not, and just be like, actually, I don't want to do that, you know,
Yeah.
but I'm down for a movie or X, Y, and Z, like, being able to offer alternatives of things that I would enjoy. So yeah.
Yeah, so many times we don't ask for what we need because we're afraid, and
Yeah.
many times reasonably afraid, because we also know that maybe those folks are not the ones that are gonna be able to meet us there.
Yeah.
But you really are cultivating that self-knowing and the expressing of that self-knowing, also being met with the community that you're building that can meet you exactly where you're at and what you need. How are you finding play? How are you finding creativity nowadays? Because I know you're like a book girly, you write, there's a lot of things about, outside of being a therapist, so many times you kind of have this focus of, like, career. And I know that I've seen you over the last few years that I know you, that we are therapists and this is our work, and we love it. And there's, like, so many other parts of us, and you have been doing such an amazing job cultivating these other parts of you. So how are you being creative and finding fun and play in your life?
Yeah. So I think one thing is, and part of my creativity and play is, I've had to learn to decenter that it has to lead to some type of product or some type of service, or,
Yeah.
you know, because I think too, I mean, I don't know how much of this maybe to upbringing. I think anytime we do something, sometimes it's tied to, like, oh, can you make money off of it? And can this turn into something? And I know that there was an era where everything felt like it had to be monetized. Like, oh, you have skills. If you're going to do that, you know, post about it and sell it and this and that. And I was like,
when MC started.
yeah, like, it's all these things, you know, and I'm just like, I don't want to do any of these things. And so I think lately I'm moving away from, this doesn't have to be a product. It doesn't have to turn into a career. It doesn't have to turn into something monetary. Like, I just want to to have fun. And so I really started tapping into things that bring me joy, that is fun, it's my inner child, that's cultivating a space for me to not have to exist in the world of like a service of like, I'm doing this for you. So I think some of the things that I've really been enjoying is like collage journaling is something that I like to do for fun. It's like junk journaling. You get like, I don't know, random stuff from your day or whatever, and you can put it in your journal and write about it. And I think that way was so much fun for me, because I'm noticing that I'm like a mixed media type of person. And like, shockingly enough, like I'm not a journal girly. Like, I think when I was a kid, I really loved journals, and I dug deep into it, and I think that got ruined when I became a therapist, and I was like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore.
Because then it's an intervention.
It's just exhausting. Because
you know about your feelings.
Yeah, I think it becomes too exhausting. So I think mixing media and collage and these things became like a really fun creative outlet. So I love doing that. I love to read. Reading has always been a thing for me. It's something I still very much love. Writing is something that I'm picking back up. I think it's a muscle that I'm trying to re-exercise, because I think I lost connection to those parts of myself, and I think that was a lot of my inner child. Like, she very much loved to write and to color and to do all of these kind of things. So I think writing is something I'm still kind of reacquainting myself with, and removing pressure that it has to lead to something. Like, it doesn't have to be a book right now or X, Y, and Z. Yeah. Even though like my inner child, my little 12, 13-year-old wants a book, but I think also just playing and experimenting and being like, see, this will go great. If not, it's fun. It's something that's healing. So yeah, and then I like to do cricket stuff. Like, I love to make cards for my friends. I think you have gotten a cup. I like to make cups, and then my nails are something I love to play. And my nails, oddly enough, is something I've done since I was a kid. My mom used to buy me nail polishes when I was really young. And then I was always like the nail salon house. Like, my friends would joke around and be like, oh, like back in the day, they would call me Lulu. So like, oh, Lulu's nails. And my friends would come over and I would paint their nails and do their nails. And then obviously through the years, I've evolved with nails, because it started with nail polish, then dip powder. And
so you gotta like show them for the
oh yeah, all these little, I'm like, all these little things. Yeah, there we go. This is a little bit more. This is my little Polly Pocket core. And it's fun. And yeah. I'm not amazing at it, but I also stopped caring. I'm like, it doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be amazing, but it's really cool to look back and see progress and growth in like real time. Of like, when I go back through like my little videos of when I first started posting nails, it's so cool to see how much they've changed. And it's just, for me, like, they don't have to be this amazing top of the line art. It's just fun. It's
fun.
Not
because you want to become a nail tech.
No,
it's because of the pure love of something that you're connected with, even from your child.
And I think for me, it's being in solitude, because as much as I love play, I love like the solitude of it. Like, when I'm doing my nails, I put my little iPad, put my little movie on, and it's just my uninterrupted time. And then you get to hyper focus on like, and I think, being a neurodivergent person, I think the hyper focusing, I love it. Like, I'm like, oh, mis líneas and like my little jewels, and I think it just gives my brain a break from like the day to day. So I think that's what I'm enjoying most about all of my creative outlets. Like, right now, they don't necessarily involve other people. I think sometimes they do, but the solitude of like the time that I spend with myself, I think, has been really like healing for me.
Book talk is another card, or just like books. Like, I say book talk. I review my books before I like read.
Yeah.
But social media books, I know you have like a large community, and you have really good friends, and you've met like really cool people through reading. How did reading come into your life?
So reading was always in my life growing up. I think that's one thing that I love my mom so much for. It's a very core positive memory that I have about my mom, is that like, she wasn't big on toys, but if you wanted a book, she would make it happen. Whether she was like almost at a library, like on the Scholastic Book Fair. I was actually a very fortunate kid that very few times in my life you know, I think growing up, you hear kids that like have memories where like they would miss out on those because they just couldn't. And I was lucky that there was times that my mom was really on it, and she would like say it and be ready, and she would let us circle books and stuff, and then she would give us money to buy those books. Like she always prioritized books. And so it was only very seldomly that I wouldn't be able to participate in book fair because you know, I suspect my mom's also learned everything, but I don't know. Sorry, Mom, if you hear this, maybe get it checked out. But she would forget a lot of things growing up. So it was very exhausting sometimes. So sometimes she would forget, and then I'd get to school and I'd be devastated because it's like the book for no puedo dar mis libros. So I think books has always been a part of my life. And then I picked it back up, I think, after grad school, because, you know, grad school, like, who the hell has time to read? We barely want to read the stuff we have to read. And so I think going through burnout and, you know, working community mental health and stuff, I needed an outlet. And so then I went back into books. But I really would say I really intentionally got back immersed into the world of books, I would say in 2021, because I think 2020 the world was like insane, where what's happening, or, you know, not insane but like wild. It was a very wild time, and unstable. So I don't think that I picked it up much then, but I think 2021 I think was around the time that I like opened up TikTok, because I was very late to the world of TikTok. Sometimes I'm like, maybe I should have never entered the world of TikTok, but I think that was like when everyone was started breaking in and trying to be influencer and all this, and that's how I found Book Talk on there. I found, you know, so I started Book Talk on TikTok, and I fell in love with it. I didn't want to show up in that way. I just wanted to take in people's a love of books, like seeing people passionately talk about books, and I just wanted to know, I'm like, oh, what are they reading? And it inspired me to come back to it, and the way that people talked about it and how passionate they were, I just thought it was so exciting. And then part of the Book Talk is also getting to see like stationery and pens and pencils, because I freaking love that stuff. It's my jam. And I was like, oh, this is really fun. And then that's how it started. Like, I just started on Book Talk and stuff. And then I think it took me forever to want to post books that I was reading, because I'm a very sensitive girl, and I do not want to be on social media because people are scary. And my heart, I just can't. I can't do it. I'm not made for that. But I think you were the one that like lovingly nudged me to be like, make a Bookstagram account, and that was doable for me, because I'm like, Bookstagram is not as intense as TikTok is, and you know, because you know, Instagram still, you don't have to do reels and stuff, you can just post the
energy of it is
it's very low
different.
So I did it. And it's fun. It's just a thing that's on there that sometimes you all will be like, oh, I read a book that you recommended. I'm like, oh, cool. Or, you know, people have reached out to me on there, and I love talking about books. So I think it was just a very fun, like, entry level, easy way for me to connect to people about topics that I love. And I created my own protections around it, of like, you don't have to post at a certain time, and you don't have to create content, all this. I'm like, this is what I read. If you want to see it, see it. See, no. And so I think that was important.
But it goes back to, you know, what you were talking about earlier about this internalized capitalism, right? That things are worth doing are things that bring money, fame, something like that, right?
Yes.
And so one of the things that I see you do, and all the little things that you love and I admire so much, is like how little you care about what it brings you in, is that it makes you happy. Like, you're doing it because it makes you happy. And then if anybody wants to join you, like, wow, the things that I did like last week or something, I saw a book that I'm interested in reading. Now I have to read it because I'm gonna go to an event with you. But I knew, I was like, oh, that's somebody, she wants to go with me. I was like, because I would love to go to a book event, but I'm not gonna be reading at the same pace that you do, right? And so what I have loved seeing you, whether it's the nails, whether it's the books or the cooking or the hosting and all the things that you do, is that you truly are doing them for the love you have more of that and not for what it brings you from the outside.
Yeah.
And that's really cool to see.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I'm excited. And I think there's no right or wrong way to be a reader. Like, if you read a book once a year, you still read. If you read it something once a month if you want to. So I think I love that you are letting yourself just show up and be like, I want to go to this event because it's fun, and you know, however way you want to take in the material. I feel like
I just want to go because I like the author.
Exactly. And book events are fun. And I've gone to book events where I hadn't read the author's book, but I wanted to support them and I wanted to meet them. And I went to get my book signed and I was like, I'll read it after. So I think, you know, it was more like kind of going back to the thing like, way porque quiero, like I want to go and I don't have to read the book. I can buy it and read it after, and that's perfectly okay.
You know, like, si tu comadre para hacerlo, but if I have a comadre to do it with me,
I'll
also have fun. I'll also love it and I'll enjoy it too. And you also do a lot of things alone. You're comfortable with doing it just like on your own, despite anybody being interested in the same things. Yeah. Makes me think about, again, kind of from the perspective of a señora, just like wondering how many of our ancestral moms, grandmas, great grandmothers, like they actually got to do things for the pure pleasure of the men and ganas. Tengo ganas. Hacerlo. And like what a cycle breaking, I don't know, like what a reparative experience or a lineage. Like it's like we're repairing something that because of a variety of ways in this world functions got lost. There's expectations of always serving, and it's almost like, how do you build a life? How do we build a life that also serves us when we are already giving so much to others and have been giving so much to others, especially as first gens and eldest daughters and all of those things. So it's really cool to see it. Community and support. That's another thing that you are so good at. And what is really fun to see is that because it's like, I want to do it. So if you want to do it with me, come along, right? But you have the most eclectic group of friends. It's always so fun to like the places where you integrate everybody, because everybody's like, how do you fit in here? How do you fit in here? How do you fit in here? And it's almost like all of us are holding like a different party. And I just think that's really cool. So how have you gotten into this place of just being so comfortable with like getting your needs met by a variety of people throughout in ways that like, it's just really cool to see it.
I think it's a Gemini. I'm kidding. I think because I know you know, people have very negative views about Geminis, but you know how we kind of say like, oh, like two-faced and things like that. But I think that for me, I think there's different egos in me that come out. And I think, you know, and I don't think that they're unsafe or unhealthy or anything. I think they're just...
It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's like I think they're just different parts of me that come out. And so I think when I was younger, I used to have so much anxiety about mixing friends. Because I was too afraid of, you know, what are people going to think? Or is it going to be weird? You know, do I have to worry if they get along, if they're talking? You know, like and that's why I think for so long I hated hosting, because I'm like, this sucks. I don't want to do any of that. Yeah. And I think also growing up hosting in like a Latin culture in itself is very exhausting. Because like serve everybody and then you come very last, and it was just this dynamics about that I like. So I think part of, you know, the parts of Señorahood that I'm changing is that I'm not going to worry about all of these extra things. Like, so my approach is like, if you want to hang out, let's hang out. If you want to meet all of these group of people that like I'm hanging out with, come. You know, and if my friends get along and they want to integrate and they want to be friends, great. And I think that was kind of funny for people, because there was people when I did the Galentine, they were asking like, oh, is it okay if I'm friends with so-and-so? And I was like, you guys are not property. Like, I don't own you. Like, yes, you can be friends with each other. But I did give disclaimers. I was like, if y'all don't get along and something happens, you fix it, because I'm still doing things and you still need to show up for me as friends. And so then everyone was like, okay, got it. So I think that for me was like, I just want to hang out with all these people. Everyone has something fun to offer. And I think I have like pockets of friends. And I think you highlighted earlier, they're based on my interests. So, like, I have book friends, I have crafty friends, you know, I have concert friends, and, you know, different things. So I think there's always groups of people that and different levels of activities that I can just call upon, like, do you want to do this? And then I think something really cool about creating a space for all of them to gather, it's almost like a weird look at my like world. I guess. So because like you don't see all of these at once, you see pockets of them. Yeah. So I think there was something kind of interesting about like my worlds colliding in this one meeting space, which I thought was kind of cool, and it was fun. Like
we all had a great time.
Yeah, and I wasn't scared. I was like, I don't want to be exhausted and I don't want to worry, so I'm just gonna let people show up and do what they do and see what happens. And that was like so liberating, and I think that's part of the Señorahood that I want to be in, of like, I don't want to stress out about unnecessary things. Like, come eat if you want to eat, play games if you want to play. Like, and I think I'm moving away from expectation, because I think growing up there was always expectation, and that was like such a sad place to be, because a lot of times it was disappointment. And now I'm like, I don't want to expect anything. Just let's eat, let's hang out, let's have fun, some bare minimum things, and whatever it turns into, and that's been really liberating for me.
But it also seems like you trust that you can meet your needs, and it's almost like, I know that I'm taking care of, I'm aware of the things that I need, so that I'm also naming them, I'm letting everybody know what to expect, and then everything else can be like free flow. But it goes back to that being able to be in tune with the inner knowing, and then being able to like verbalize it, right? And like kind of like, can we hang out and all of that? I mean, like, this is how I feel about it. And this is kind of like the one hard no. I'll make it hard on me if you're gonna be friends and it doesn't work out. Yeah, that it requires a lot of trust in yourself that what you know inside is, you know, is a direction, like the North Star that you're following constantly.
Yeah. So I think I love that. I think I in cultivating the North Star, and I think I'm finding it, and I think people in my life see it and they're like, okay, we can meet you there, and I think that has made the communities that I'm building really fun, because I'm just like, these are my core things, and if you guys fit into this, great. Is, you know, that's okay too. And I think it's really took away like the stress and you know, the anxiety and stuff out of like interacting with people.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I hear commonly from just friends or even myself or clients and, you know, people that I am around is like how hard it is to make friends as an adult. And so I always, anytime the conversation comes up, I always think about you, and I'm like, no, it's not. It's hard, yes, but like not for you. Like you always pop into my mind. But I think that that's the part that I have noticed, that is how comfortable you are and allowing people to just show up in certain parts too, without the expectation that everyone has to be everything. And I think that sometimes can be a really big barrier for friendship, because unless you meet all the things that I need, then it's too hard to be in a relationship with you, and you're actually kind of saying, you need this part of me and I love it, and it's enough. You are enough as a friendship, and in this way, we're not needing all of you to be like in perfect alignment. And I think that's a part that sometimes we miss in like this, the making adult friends, is that we're busy, we have lives, we also need a lot of quiet time, and this is the one thing, that one space that I have, and it's not little, it's big, that I'm letting you actually in this big part of in this big little part of my life, and doesn't have to be all of it. And so I really appreciate how you lead with that in the way that you show up for your friends. Like, I'm having fun. I'm also having like a great time here, and that matters to me as well.
And I also think what's hard sometimes for people is that I think some people want to be my friend and like want to be everything, but I think also where that sometimes can be hard for me is that if I already feel like I have my needs met within my friend groups, I don't always want to let new people in. And it's not because I don't like them or want them, but I'm like, and I don't know, right? Because I'm still in this journey. I don't know if that's part of, I think maybe my neurodivergence, that I put people in categories, and I'm like, oh, well, that's where they fit. So maybe I can be rigid in that way. But I also think that I go really hard for my friends, like for people in my life, because I love them so much, that I don't like to add more people, because I'm very intentional with who I want to share time with and how much of my time I want to give you. And, you know, and I think adding more people in my life is very overwhelming. And I just don't have capacity to show up in that way for people. So it is sometimes hard. And I do feel for people that want so deeply to be in my life. And I'm just like, I'm sorry.
Because the way that I was stereo, because there was something like really special. We don't even remember how we met. We don't remember exactly like the story, but I do remember having this feeling of like, who is this person because they're super cool and I don't share nails, crafts, books. It's like we're like mainly therapy. That's like the main avenue. It's like, but it's not like we're friends because we're therapists. There's something about the depth of you that I know my heart from the get-go when I first see our house, it was just like, I am deeply curious about this person. And so it is hard to enter, but once you enter, for vida, like you're and so it is it's valid, right? Like not everybody's gonna be a good fit, and I think there's also a responsibility we have to ourselves to protect our energy and then protect ourselves from opening up all the time, always to everyone, because we can get to be disappointed or hurt. And I know that you've been hurt to friendship, and so your protection and the love that you give, right? Like it has to be measured and it's calibrated by your capacity. And I know it's such an important message that people, when they talk about making friends, many times we're trying to accommodate to others. And it's almost like you go about it the other way. It's just like, no, like also meet me. I will meet you where you're at, but also meet me where I'm at. It's this reciprocal give and take in the friendships.
And I love that. And I think sometimes it is hard for me to socialize with people because there is this worry that they're gonna want to be my friend, and I'm like, no, because I will talk to you. Like I feel like I'm a very friendly person. Like I try and be to people, so I'll say hi and I'll ask people stuff because I'm curious about people. But then sometimes I feel like I almost feel like I lead people on because they're like, oh, this person like asks me so many questions and they're fun and I want to hang out with them, and I'm like, no, like this has an expiration date. I'm getting out.
So I mean, I just didn't give up.
And I was like, fine. But I also think it's because I'm a collector of friends. Like all of my friends, when they've met, they all know me from there's a story, an origin story. So either we met through work or through grad school or through different moments in my life. And so then they made it with me into this place that I am now. And so I think there's also something sacred about that I have these pockets of friends that have followed me through different stages in life. And we can coexist in these stages of life now where we are, married, or some of us are parents and all of these things, and that somehow we still work. So I think bringing in new people sometimes is too hard because I feel like I built something that's so sacred. And I was like, I don't know that I want to keep adding more to that. So sorry if you've been trying to be my friend. It's not personal.
I was the last one that got in.
Probably, I think. Yeah, you were the last one. I haven't. Yeah. No, actually, no.
I'm just kidding. I know you have.
I'm like, there's actually been a couple from the world of Bookstagram. Yeah. So yeah.
So you are aware of our friendships, but we never know when you're always. So it's true.
I don't solicit it. It's like I don't let people know.
What messages have you had to combat around expectations from people to be able to be so comfortable with being you? Like, what does it sound like? What has it sound like in your head around like people pleasing and around guilt? How have you allowed yourself to let go of those expectations even from yourself to yourself so that you can be in this place of comfort and exactly who you are?
I talk to myself a lot. Also, shout out to my partner because I talk to them a lot. And they're like an extension of my brain. Like they plug in whether they ask for it or not, and they kind of help me reason and work through things. Because there is a part of me, I think, that being the oldest, the people pleaser me is still very much in there, and I think she's healing and she is working through it. So I talk myself through a lot when I'm responding to friends. I sit first and I ask, like, am I in a space to respond? What do I want out of this interaction? What am I needing? Why am I feeling called to maybe bend over backwards? And I like pump the brakes now. I pump the brakes, and then when I'm unsure, like I'll ask my partner, like, hey, like I'm kind of struggling with this. Can you help? And so they provide a very different part of like support. And so I think that's really helped me not overcommit to things, because I don't want to unintentionally build resentment, things like that, when my friends have no idea that I'm feeling this way. And so instead of being so like, oh, I'll meet you here and I'll do this for you and I'll pick you up, because I used to do that. I was like, no, like how do I create space where we can meet each other halfway and you show up and I show up? So now I'm more intentional with like, if I'm gonna meet up with people, does it work for me? Am I having to go out of my way? Like, is it gonna be overwhelming? Do I have capacity? So now like I think I'm better about inserting my needs and being like, oh, how about this? Or, can we meet halfway? Or yeah, like I can hang out for like an hour or two, So I think being able to vocalize and be transparent, I think that's been helping a lot with being able to maintain friendships and then not be exhausted or build resentment because I'm like, oh, I gave too much and I actually didn't have it to give.
How does this all show up for you as a therapist? Just like as a little bit of like the switch in the gears into mental health, because the work that we do also requires that we are showing up for people, right? And so what is the balance for you to have this social life, to have this like personal interest? Because you do also spend a lot of quiet time on your own and you are by yourself, and then you are in an industry, a profession that also is demanding a lot of you showing up. How do you do it to balance all of these things? And what are your recovery sort of like rituals and practices that you have to make sure that you're calibrated to be able to show up in all these areas?
Yeah. I love being at home. Home is my favorite place with my little plants. So I feel like some of my rituals when I get home is like I almost call it like as a cleanse. Like I get home and the first thing I have to do is wash my face. Like whether I have makeup on or not, like I wash my face because it stimulates something in me that's like you're done for the day. Like I wash my face, I get into my comfy clothes, and that's usually when my partner is like, okay, we're probably not going to go anywhere. And like maybe you can convince me to leave the house again. But I think that's part of my ritual of like, getting home, unwinding, taking layers off. And I think there's like something about that just signals like I'm done. I think also cultivating like all my little plantitas at home and like spending time with myself reading. Those are the ways that like I recalibrate. I also am like a binge watcher. I love it so much. Like aside from reading, I love watching movies and shows. So I think that's also how I decompress, where I just want to lay around and like watch TV and not do anything. So I think like my home is very much this like very intentional space that I've built, and I take a lot of pride in it, because when people come over, they're like, oh, I feel so calm in here. I feel so like I could fall asleep, and like people feel really comfortable there. And so I think that is like a really big place for me where I can just kind of like, shut off and just kind of be with myself. And then of course, like having my dogs and my partner, I think they help us well in just kind of grounding and being this like physical presence that kind of can just share this space with me, I think.
Yeah. So as you are in this Señorahood journey, what are the kind of, not next goals, because I kind of hate it where it's just like, what is next for you? But it's like, what are you intentionally working towards right now? What are you aware of that in this Señora journey you're trying to dismantle, to bring more of, to grow, to try something new? Like, what is this chapter also allowing, inviting in for you?
Yeah, I think this era I'm trying to play more, I think. So like there's things I want to do, like I want to try sewing classes and like do more fun things like in the community that's just for fun, just because I want to try things. So I think I'm working on that. And I think also embracing the ways that I'm changing, like the way that my body is changing, the way that my looks are changing and things like that. I think my relationship to things, so embracing like my relationship with makeup and how that's changing, because my skin's changing and my texture's changing. And so I think as I get more deeper into Señorahood, I'm definitely going to be seeking wisdom from friends and community that's already there, and asking them like, how have you embraced the ways that your body has changed? And because I don't think that we have those conversations enough. So I think for me, like that's kind of like, what are my phases of community and like and based on like my needs in different stages of life. So I think those are some things that like I'm looking forward to, or conversations of like, what can I expect in my 40s and beyond. And then I think not needing to have it figured out. Like I think that feels really good, of like, I used to hate growing up the question, like, where do you see yourself in 10 years? I'm like, I don't know, maybe alive, maybe not. I don't know, like, not like SI kind of stuff, but like, I'm like, that's too much for me to answer. And I was like, I don't know. Like, but one of my main, I guess if you want to call it a goal in Señorahood, is like a garden. Like, I want to have all the herbs, like, so I could tell someone, like, oh, I have a tea for that. Like, oh, I have flowers, come get some. Or I have veggies. Like, I want to be able to show up for people in that way and have, like, these cheesy little, like, kind of like puestito at my house where you can come get your little basket and get your little fruits and veggies and take them with you. And like, I think those are like fun things. So like, I have to look forward to, I think.
Yeah. La señora, la vecina, when you can go borrow the sugar. But it's gonna be veggies.
Yeah.
Tomates.
Yeah, but like, come get tomates, chiles. Like, because I think also my family had a really green thumb. And my grandpa had like chiles and cilantro and onion and potatoes. So it was always so beautiful to be like, oh, we need chiles or whatever. And literally just walk outside and like, oh, here they are, chiles guajillos, whatever. And I aspired to be at that level, but I'm working on my fear of rats and spiders. So
that's my specific.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah. I mean, I don't care for rats. I just don't want them to exist in my space.
Aquí in Sacramento are rats.
Yeah, I know.
Like garden rats.
I know. And so I'm not afraid of them. I just don't want to share living quarters with them. So I'm trying. No. So I'm like mentally, I'm trying to figure that out because that's getting in the way of my single out dreams. So yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
So fun.
I will get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. You'll get there. And maybe you do like a hanging garden so that it's not like so much.
Yeah.
That is so funny. I did not know this about you. So I'm gonna be thinking about
I know.
Sacramento tiene.
I know.
Okay, well, we can go 3 hours conversation. So
for sure.
For our listeners,
yes,
and for the boundaries of the show, what do you hope people take away from our conversation today?
I think maybe feeling validated or seen in a different way, or maybe, you felt a part of the conversation, hopefully, and not being afraid to assert yourself in relationships and being intentional about what relationships do I want to build. And I think part of that is also learning to have difficult conversations with people in your life, because I am a firm believer of letting people letting people try. I think that I'm not someone that discards people like just cause. There has to be really significant things that I'm like, okay, I'm letting you go. So I think being flexible with like, what is your capacity for letting people try, and at what point has that been exhausted, and so can you give people grace to show up? And even because I have friends that at times that our capacity is very limited, so sometimes we kind of don't really show up and it kind of feels shitty, and so being able to be transparent about your needs, about your bandwidth, your capacity, and hopefully being able to step into those things can help you build more intentional, sustainable friendships and make you feel empowered and to be able to really show up and enjoy the people in your life. And so I think maybe that's part of my hope of folks that listen to this, that I kind of wish them the best in their friendship journey, and and hopefully they can find that space to show up for themselves so that they can have relationships that that are exciting and fun. So yeah, just can be my friend.
So on the show notes, we will not put your handle. Do not find
no. You can find it, but
talks and therapy talks and things like that. But I just, admire your ability to be so clear about how you're showing up right now. It like teaches me a lot, and I appreciate you, and also just being in your community and loving you. It's such a wonderful experience. So thank you for loving all of us. Are lucky to have made it into the circle.
Thanks. I love you very much too. And I'm so proud of myself. I didn't cry at all.
No. This was fun. Well, thank you so much. Yeah. And the cool thing about having podcasts is that maybe we can have such a conversation. That's how it is. So thank you everyone for joining us. Until next time, entre días amigos.
Adios.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with your tias and amiguis. Your support helps us reach more people and continue these important conversations. And don't forget to follow us on social media and stay connected. Until next time, remember to take care of yourself, embrace your journey, and keep living life with heart, vision, and creativity.